Hey, and we're live. Hello, everyone.
What if someone planned a murder so carefully that they thought they had created the perfect alibi? What if the person who appeared heartbroken after a tragedy was actually hiding a terrible secret? And what if a simple gaming livestream became one of the biggest clues that helped police solve a murder? Today, we are looking at the heartbreaking case of Natalie McNally, a young woman who was 15 weeks pregnant and looking forward to the future. But in December 2022, her life was taken in a brutal attack that shocked Northern Ireland. What followed was an investigation filled with lies, hidden movements, digital evidence, and a plan that almost worked. This is the murder of Natalie McNally and the downfall of Stephen McCullagh. A bright future ahead. Before we get into the crime itself, it is important to understand who Natalie McNally was. Natalie was a 32-year-old woman from Lugan, Northern Ireland. Friends and family described her as kind, caring, and loved by everyone around her. She was excited about becoming a mother and was 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy she planned to name Dean. Like many people preparing for a new chapter in life, she was looking forward to the future. Sadly, she never got the chance to see that future become reality. While everything appeared normal on the outside, a terrible event was quietly approaching, one that would change many lives forever. The night that changed everything. As Natalie went about her day on December 18, 2022, there was no sign of the horror that was about to unfold. She spent time with family before returning home later that evening. Sometime during the night, someone arrived at her house. What happened next was both violent and heartbreaking. Investigators later found that Natalie had been attacked inside her own home. She suffered multiple injuries, including stab wounds and injuries to her neck. The attack was so severe that it also took the life of her unborn son. After carrying out the attack, the killer left the property, leaving behind a scene that would shock investigators and devastate Natalie's family when the truth was discovered. A discovery that shocked everyone. The next day brought a moment that would become a major part of the investigation. Stephen McCullagh called emergency services and reported that he had found Natalie inside her home. During the call, he sounded distressed and emotional. He told the operator there was blood everywhere. He said Natalie felt cold and reminded the dispatcher that she was pregnant. To anyone listening at that moment, he appeared to be a boyfriend who had just made a terrible discovery. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, but sadly there was nothing they could do. Natalie had already died. At first, Stephen appeared to be just another grieving person caught in a terrible tragedy. But as investigators looked more closely, questions began to appear. The alibi that looked perfect. As police began interviewing people connected to Natalie, Stephen had something that seemed very important. He claimed that he had been live streaming online during the time of the murder. According to his story, he had been at home playing video games and broadcasting the session on YouTube. The live stream lasted for hours and appeared to show him safely at home while the crime was happening elsewhere. If true, it would make it almost impossible for him to have committed the murder. For a time, this seemed like a strong defense. Many criminals fail because they cannot explain where they were during a crime. Stephen appeared to have an answer ready. But investigators were not satisfied with simply accepting what they were told. Police began looking deeper. As days turned into weeks, detectives continued collecting every piece of evidence they could find. They reviewed security camera footage, checked travel records, studied phone data, and examined digital evidence. The more they looked, the more they felt that something was not right. Small details began raising questions. If Stephen had truly been at home all night, why were there signs suggesting movement during the same time period? Why did certain pieces of evidence not fit together? Investigators continued digging, believing that somewhere in the evidence there might be an answer. Eventually, they found one. The CCTV evidence. The investigation took a major turn when police carefully reviewed CCTV footage from different locations. Cameras captured a person traveling on the night of the murder. The footage showed someone boarding a bus and making a journey toward Natalie's area. Other cameras later showed a person moving through the neighborhood. Most importantly, a doorbell camera recorded someone approaching Natalie's house. Prosecutors later argued that the person seen on these recordings was Stephen McCullagh. The footage did not stop there. Cameras also helped investigators follow the return journey after the murder. Evidence showed a taxi ride that eventually brought the person back toward home. Slowly, a timeline was being created. And that timeline was beginning to clash directly with the story Stephen had given the police. The live stream falls apart. Now the investigation reached one of its most important moments. Detectives from the cybercrime unit decided to closely examine the live stream that Stephen claimed proved his innocence. At first glance, it looked convincing. But technology can reveal details that people often miss. Specialists carefully studied timestamps, digital records, and technical information connected to the video. What they discovered changed the entire case. The live stream was not actually live. According to investigators, the gaming session had been recorded days earlier and later broadcast as though it was happening in real time. Suddenly, the alibi that had seemed so strong was falling apart. Instead of proving innocence, the video now suggested planning and deception. Investigators believed the recording had been prepared in advance so that Stephen could appear to be at home while actually traveling to Natalie's house. The evidence continues to grow. With the live stream exposed, police began putting together all the evidence they had collected. They had CCTV footage showing travel movements. They had transportation records. They had digital evidence showing the live stream was pre-recorded. Piece by piece, a picture began to emerge. Prosecutors argued that Stephen carefully planned the murder. They said he prepared the fake live stream, traveled to Natalie's home, carried out the attack, and then returned home before later pretending to discover her body. Investigators also believed he attempted to direct suspicion away from himself. But by this point, the evidence was becoming difficult to ignore. Eventually, enough information had been gathered for the case to move into the courtroom. The trial. As the trial began, jurors heard evidence collected during the lengthy investigation. They learned about Natalie's injuries and the circumstances surrounding her death. They reviewed CCTV footage showing movements on the night of the murder. They listened to experts explain how the live stream had been pre-recorded and later presented as live. Prosecutors described a carefully planned attack and argued that the evidence clearly pointed to Stephen McCullagh. The defense challenged those claims and maintained his innocence. For weeks, the courtroom examined every detail. Jurors listened closely as investigators, experts, and witnesses explained what they had found. By the end of the trial, the jury had heard a detailed account of what prosecutors believed happened on the night Natalie was killed. The verdict. After carefully considering the evidence, the jury reached its decision. Stephen McCullagh was found guilty of the murder of Natalie McNally. The verdict brought strong emotions inside the courtroom. For Natalie's family and friends, it marked the end of a long search for answers. The man who had once appeared to be grieving alongside them had now been found responsible for the crime. While the verdict could never erase the pain caused by Natalie's death, it provided a measure of justice and accountability. But one more important step remained before the case was fully concluded. Justice for Natalie and Dean. As the court moved to sentencing, attention turned to the impact of the crime. Natalie had lost her life, and her unborn son Dean had also been taken away before he ever had the chance to be born. The court recognized the devastating loss suffered by the family. The judge described the murder as a brutal and serious crime. Stephen McCullagh was sentenced to life in prison and ordered to serve a minimum of 31 years before becoming eligible for consideration for release. For Natalie's loved ones, no sentence could truly replace what was taken from them. But the conviction ensured that the person responsible was held accountable for his actions. A case that will be remembered. When people look back on this case, one detail often stands out. The killer believed technology would protect him. He believed a fake live stream would provide the perfect alibi and keep suspicion away from him. For a short time, that plan appeared successful. But investigators refused to stop looking deeper. They checked every detail, reviewed every piece of evidence, and followed every lead. Eventually, the truth emerged. What seemed like proof of innocence became one of the strongest pieces of evidence used to prove guilt. The combination of CCTV footage, digital records, and careful investigative work exposed the truth and brought justice for Natalie and her unborn son. The murder of Natalie McNally remains one of the most heartbreaking cases in recent years. It is a story of loss, deception, and a plan that ultimately failed when investigators followed the evidence wherever it led. Natalie and her unborn son, Dean, never got the future they deserved, but their story continues to be remembered. Cases like this remind us how important careful police work can be and how even the most carefully planned lies can eventually come apart. If you found this case interesting, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. And let me know in the comments what part of this case shocked you the most. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.